This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 132 rooms, 157 suspects, 1 dead body, 1 wildly eccentric detective, 1 disastrous state dinner. The Residence is a screwball whodunit series set among the eclectic staff of the world's most famous mansion, the White House, from Shondaland, with an all-star cast, including Uzo Aduba as Rye Detective Cordelia Cup. Watch The Residence, now, only on Netflix.
We
are
Cultivate.
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 We are Cultivate.
Hello and welcome to Ye Olde Crime, where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear. I'm your host, Lindsay Valenti, and with me is my sister and co-host, Maddie Stengel.
Hello.
Hello there.
It's another beautiful Monday night.
So, there's nothing in the cubby, but I do want to let our listeners know that the last TeePublic sale of the month is March 26th through the 30th. So when this episode comes out, treat yourself. Get yourself something nice. All right. We are closing out Wicked Mock Madness with a personal story this week, and that is the story of Märet Jonsdotter.
Okay. A personal story.
So, just like the story of a person. Sorry, that was misleading.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, we're related? Question mark?
No, we're not related.
Honestly, I
wouldn't
be surprised.
I mean, who knows? We're related to a lot of people in Europe, so who knows?
We are.
I meant personal as in this is the story of a person, not
just one person.
A series of trials.
Got it.
As we have done in the past.
A lot of angst towards one person in particular.
Yes.
This is going to be sad. All right, let's do it.
All right. Information was pulled from the following sources: a 2012 Listverse article by Jenna Ivey, 2010 Portia Bridget blog post, Find a Grave, and 2 Wikipedia links. Like, there is not a lot about this lady outside of the broader witch trials that she is tangentially tied to, which we'll get into. So thank you to Carrie Ann for her research assistance for this episode, and links to all of the articles will be included in the show notes. And if the name of Märet Jonsdotter sounds familiar, well, it should, because we mentioned her in episode 189 when we discussed the Mora witch trials in Sweden. She actually has the distinction of being the first accused witch in Sweden, and we'll go more into that today.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
Being the first of anything like that, it's rough.
It's not great. We'll just say that. It's not great.
Being the first one to be called a witch, like, ever in your country.
Märet Jonsdotter was born in Sweden in 1644, and although we don't know much about her, we do know that she went by the nickname Big Märet because she had a younger sister who was also named Märet, who in turn was called Small Märet.
That's why are you so lazy with names?
I don't know.
It makes me wonder how many other like Märets there were. Were they all Märet?
No, but there's the thing about it too is that that's also a common last name. So there will be other Märets in this story, but that's their last name, not their first name.
Weird.
What do you do in Sweden? What were you doing in the 1640s?
They're just hanging out. They're just having some fun. Listen, the dark days were long, all right?
They were very long.
They were very long, dark, cold days.
Speaking of dark, cold, long days, the year was 1668, And rumors began to spread that witches were abducting children to join in the witches' Sabbath of Satan in Blockula.
I love that town name.
Blockula is like a place, a very special place, which I will remind our listeners of.
I know. It's such a fun name.
Mm-hmm.
Blockula.
This was the start of the Great Noise, or the witch hysteria that would sweep through Sweden from 1668 through 1676.
I love that they belittled it to the great noise,
Yeah.
as if they weren't the ones that made the noise.
Yeah.
What a passive-aggressive way of belittling, like, the dehumanization of a group of people.
Yeah. And like the slaughter of,
Right,
800 people, whatever.
Innocent people, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The great noise. Mm.
And as I mentioned in our episode on Mura, Blockula, which can be translated to Blue Hill, was the legendary island where Satan supposedly held his witches' Sabbath.
That's right. The party island.
Party Island.
Oh, man.
Quote, they unanimously confessed that Blockula is situated in a delicate large meadow, whereof you can see no end. The place or house they met at had before it a gate painted with divers colors. Through this gate they went into a little meadow distinct from the other, where the beasts went, that they used to ride on. But the men whom they made use of in their journey stood in the house by the gate in a slumbering posture, sleeping against the wall. In a huge large room of this house, they said, there stood a very long table, at which the witches did sit down, and that hard by this room was another chamber, where there were very lovely and delicate beds. End quote.
It sounds like the best time ever. And like, you just ride your boyfriend over there, he takes a nap, you're whining and dining with your lady friends, having a cute little slumber party, and Satan's like, here you go, ladies. Like, have the best time.
It's like Satan's Airbnb.
Like Blockula 2025, where are we going?
Yep.
Can we visit? Because I would love to have a little charcuterie board under the moon with my favorite girlfriends.
And if you'll recall, the devil was described as follows, quote, generally appeared as a little old man in a gray coat with red and blue stockings, with exceedingly long garters. He had a high-crowned hat with bands of many-colored linen enfolded about it, and a long red beard that hung down to his middle. End quote.
I love him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just an adorable little old man, feeding me meats and cheeses in the woods, having a slumber party. Like, I'm sorry, but I would be right there with him, man. That sounds delightful, especially considering how like terrible their lives were during this time.
Yeah. No shit.
And nice, delicate little bed sounds great.
Yeah. Another description of Blockula comes from Sadducismus Triumphatus.
Wow,
quote,
that's a name.
Yeah, it's Latin.
Yeah, got that.
Yeah. In Blockula, people partied as if at a wedding. They drank, ate, danced, and had sex by the light of candles that were placed in vaginas, while Satan sat under the table and laughed so that the whole room shook, and the fire of hell poured up from a hole in the floor, where you could see the tormented souls in hell. You danced with your backs towards each other, as well as doing everything else backwards. Married several people at the same time, and had sex with them and with Satan himself, and with his devils and demons, whose penises were cold and whose sperm was made of water, and gave birth to frogs that were swept up from the floor with a broom and were made into butter. When you woke up afterwards, your body ached, the food you had eaten had vanished and made you hungry, and the gifts you had received had turned to wood chip. End quote.
That's one hell of a trip. Were these people licking these toads? Like, what was happening? It went from like a
Super
cute
happy
little
fun time.
sleepover with your girlfriends to like some creepy man's fever dream in his basement while he's high on bath salts. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, to like a bath salt BDSM party. And
From like a man who's obsessed with frogs.
and butter, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust toad butter.
No.
That's not my
I
no.
also
And are you having your backs to each other because like you don't want to see the lost souls in the hole in the floor? Because I would put my back to that, I guess. I don't know.
know.
There's a lot of kink shaming in there too.
There is. Maybe you had to have your backs to each other, because if you both had burning candles in your vaginas, I mean, you're gonna like you're gonna light your bushes on fire.
That's true.
You know, nobody was doing landscaping
Yeah, because
back
like
then.
well, you could have candles without them being lit.
It said lit candles.
It said lit candles?
Yeah, and had sex by the light of candles that were placed in vaginas.
That's
Vagina
just
candles.
that's just not a good time. That's a hard
No.
like what kind of sumo wrestling dance are you doing? Like
The
crab
Kegel
legs.
muscles to be able to hold a slick
That was the torture. That was
slick
that's
candle. Yeah.
that's the layer in hell they had to be in. The squat crab dance candle holding.
You gotta
hell.
keep it high and tight, ladies, or we're all gonna burst into flames.
It's the wood chips, the women that didn't make it.
They were just like, I can't hold on anymore. Unless they were giant. We're diving too deep into this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're done. We need to
We're
move
done.
on.
I'm moving on now. I'm just like, unless the candles were ginormous, in which
like,
case they
listen,
weren't going to have to work super hard to keep it inside, but whatever.
I wonder how much time they spent during the trial trying to figure out the logistics of these claims. If they had like grown men recreating it.
Oh
during a
God.
crime scene, you know.
Yeah. Spoiler alert,
be
they
a
did not. I'll tell you that
To
right
be
now.
a
They
fly
did
on
not.
that wall. I know.
All right.
Boring. Losers.
Loser frog lickers. The trial was sparked, no pun intended,
Nice.
by a local shepherd girl named Gertrude Jonsdotter. Now, Gertrude's father, Sven Voss, had attempted to court Märet with the intention of marrying her after she had helped raise Gertrude following her mother's death.
Ew.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Doesn't seem to sound mutual.
Sven would later decide not to marry Märet after the pair had made a trip to Dalarna, where Sven was attacked and beaten by one of Märet's suitors, who was also the son of an ensign. So he was like
higher up.
He was like a military kid. Following this, Märet left the Voss household, and Gertrude was sent away to live with her great aunt in Dalarna.
Sounds like Gertrude, that's like the perfect storm for her to have a hateful grudge.
Against Märet, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At this same time, a local priest in the picturesque town of Alvedalen, named Lars Elvius, was following up on claims from a little shepherd boy named Mats Nilsson, who stated that he had seen Gertrude leading a parade of goats across the water at Hemansang by Osen.
Shepherds are quite the gossip gussies, huh?
Right? Well, I mean, you just hang around with sheep all day.
I guess.
And maybe because they're wandering around so much, they like overhear all the hot goss.
They must.
They're just like,
there
you
you
guys. Mats and Gertrude tended the same herd of sheep. And like small children, for Gertrude was 12 at this time, they quarreled. And apparently, one of their fights ended in violence when Gertrude beat up Mats.
Nice. Sorry. I just love the idea of this 12-year-old girl fighting this like other young kid in like a field of sheep, and she's just beating him.
Just
Who's
laying
gonna stop
into
her?
him.
She's in the middle of a field
Yeah.
with a bunch of sheep.
The sheep aren't going to say anything. They're just sitting there chewing. So after listening to Maut's claims against Gertrude, Lars, the priest, went on to interrogate Gertrude, who lived in Hardul with her parents. Backed into a corner, Gertrude named her neighbor's maid as the witch who had taught her witchcraft. She also claimed that she had introduced her to the devil. And that maid, of course, was Märet.
Big Märet?
Big Märet. So at this point, Gertrude was back home. She was living with her dad. And Märet was...
mom.
And new mom, apparently. And Märet was the maid of their next-door neighbor.
So she was like, this is my opportunity to, 1, get out of trouble, and 2, to stick it to the lady that scorned my father.
Yep.
And ruined my life.
Yes. And got me sent away to live with my great aunt. Yeah.
That sounds very much like a teen girl. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't say I wouldn't do it too if living in the same environment.
Well, and she, I'm assuming, to some extent loved Märet because she had raised her to a certain extent after her mother passed away. So I'm sure she saw it a bit as like a slight against not just her dad, but a slight against her. Like,
no,
wait a minute.
1,000%.
Yeah. And now I have to go away?
Yeah. Like she thought she was going to have a family again with a new mom that she loved. And it didn't work out. And her dad was beat up and angry, made her leave to this relative who she may or may not have liked, doesn't matter. And now she's back with this other family being an angsty teen and sees an opportunity to be like, you know what? Blame her. I see it. I don't agree with it, but I see it.
Yeah. During her interrogation, Gertrude gave a detailed confession, stating that in 1663, when she was 8, Märet took her for a walk past a sand pit, after which they came to a 3-way crossroads. At the crossroads, Märet cried out, quote, "Thou devil, come forward," end quote. After this, the devil appeared disguised as a vicar, and the 3 dined together.
Yeah, just saying that she was 8, this is revenge. This is all revenge.
The following night, Märet once more went to Gertrude, and she went on to smear Gertrude's body, along with the body of one of her father's cows, in red oil, which allowed them to fly away through the chimney to visit Satan.
I mean, that's kind of cool. You just get like red oil on you. You can just like go fly wherever you want. That's kind of cool.
I mean, if you're going to go through the chimney, you got to be greased up somehow, right?
Yeah.
You're
Well,
not
you
going
don't
to try
want
to climb through there dry.
No.
Gross.
Oh my God. The bricks alone would just scrape.
Talk about exfoliation.
Yeah.
Gertrude would go on to name 7 other witches as well during her confession.
Oh, she's a bitter Betty, that Gertrude.
Märet's trial started in September of 1668, and at this time she was 24 years old.
That's a bummer. She's just trying to live her life.
Gertrude's father, Sven, was interviewed, and he stated that Märet had ridden on his back as if he was a horse, all the way to Blockula. Small Märet, who at this time was 16, also gave testimony, sharing during questioning that she and Märet had both ridden cows backwards to Blockula, where they then slaughtered them before laying with the devil, aka sex. She stated that Märet had lain with Satan many times, but that she herself didn't have sex with him until she was 9.
What?
Yep.
I don't like that.
No. Both Märet's sisters also apparently would milk with familiars, and each Christmas and Easter they would ride the cows to be slaughtered by Satan.
What's in the water there?
Why
do you see weird things when it's dark all the time? Like, it hurts.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Märet's little brothers, 14-year-old Uluf and 10-year-old Joen, backed up small Märet's story, but shared that it was their father John who had taken them. So in response to
Weird.
their claims, Märet told her siblings that they had forsaken God and were heading down a dark road before she crossed herself with the sign of the cross. Like she was like, nope, peace out.
Big
Märet.
No. So she was like, y'all are crazy. This isn't happening.
Y'all need Jesus. Yeah, she
Go
essentially,
away.
yeah.
Go and get.
I'm gonna pray for you. That's essentially what she was saying.
Bless your heart.
And then they all began to cry and embraced their sister along with their mother and begged Märet to confess to her sins, and she continued to refuse, stating that she had no idea what they were talking about and she hoped God would forgive them.
This is awful. This is the ye old gaslighting. This
I was
is
just
crazy.
gonna say, this is like serious gaslighting.
Oh man.
A 15-year-old shepherd boy named Eirik Eriksson was also interviewed at Märet's trial and reported that he had experienced a vision in the woods. In this
Oh,
vision,
great.
he was sucked up into the air and he witnessed Gertrude sitting in Blockula alongside the children that she had taken there, one of which was his own little sister. No one questioned his story. It was like, no further questions, Your Honor.
It sounds like she was like a common caretaker. Like she babysat a lot from the sounds of it. If she knows all of these kids and she was raising Gertrude for a long time, this is just your classic, what I'm assuming is a pretty lovely girl growing up and being single too long in a town of just angry, bored people.
On April 1st, 1669, Märet and another woman known as Widow Karin Auggen were judged and found guilty. However, since neither of the women admitted committing the crimes of which they were accused, according to Swedish law, they could not be executed, and the practice of torture wasn't applicable.
That's one of the best loopholes I think I've ever heard in my life. I bet they fixed that.
Well, in order to get around this...
There it is. There's that other shoe.
There's that loophole.
I knew we had a pair.
Priests were called in to persuade them to confess and receive communion, which would meet the requirements that they acknowledge their guilt and allow them to enter heaven following their execution.
That's more demonic than everything they were accused of.
That's pretty dirty pool.
Those priests are murderers.
Both women refused to confess and receive communion after being taken to the place of execution. And after being thwarted, the priests once more took the women and escorted them back to prison.
Thank God. You go. You go, ladies.
As for Gertrude and Märet's siblings, who started the trial and accused the women of witchcraft, they were all flogged and then released for taking part in the witches' Sabbaths because they were sharing about the Sabbaths, having attended them. So they weren't going to get off scot-free.
Her sister said she started having sex when she was 9. That's messed up, ma'am. Yeah. And all to get your sister killed? Like, what the hell? Like, how do you hate someone so much? I don't understand. Like, because up until this point, we don't know a lot about her, but was she really that horrific of a person that, like, her whole family wanted to kill her publicly?
Well, and not only that, but it's like people must have liked her, at least dudes must have liked her, because you wouldn't beat the crap out of somebody for like trying to steal your girl if you didn't like her. You know what I mean?
She was always employed. You don't just let anybody watch your kids too, or clean your house. So there had to be some sort of level of respect there. So I just don't understand, like, was she this really awful person? Because based on like her testimony and stuff, no. I don't think she was.
And this is all the words of children. It's just
we'll
like the
never
Salem witch
know.
trials.
I've said some really stupid things as a kid. You know, like you can't trust the judgment of children.
But children were innocent, God's innocent little beings. So, out of the mouths of babes.
God, I hate that. I hate it so much.
Well, the other people who Gertrude had named as being witches were also acquitted, thankfully.
Good.
But at that point, the hysteria had already taken root and began to spread.
Yeah.
Children would continue to spread tales of Blockula, claiming that in addition to the devil and his demons, angels also resided there. The children claimed that the angels would pull the food of Satan away from them to prevent them from eating it.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them cried tears as large as peas, and the angel pleaded with the children to spread the word of the witches in order that they could be exterminated. They were like, I need you to tell people about these witches because we need these witches killed.
You know, biblically accurate angels, I think they might have done that. Right? Didn't they pretty much like hate humanity?
Yeah, they're just like a collection of winged eyes. Like, it's terrifying.
I don't know, the old red-bearded man that was serving me wine and cheese sounds a heck of a lot better than these angels that are telling me to kill people. Like, I don't know.
Those weren't the only words shared by the angels. In addition to this, they asked the children to send the message that one should have to sell tobacco at its fair market price.
Oh.
And that you shouldn't have to work on Thursdays or suffer the wearing of shirts with frilled sleeves. There's that.
So they were being babysat by a crazy man dressed as an angel.
Or these are concerns that the children had, and they were like, if the angel told me to share this, maybe people will actually do it.
Those are things that their parents complained about when they would come home. No kid, what? Thursdays off of work? What? The shirt sleeves, maybe. I could see the shirt sleeves as being a kid thing of like, I don't want to wear this stupid shirt. Don't make me wear it. But all the other ones are clearly what they've heard from their parents complaining about in the home or on the street. That's so weird.
And during all of this, Märet continued to languish in prison.
Of course.
During the 4 years she was held there, she was continuously interrogated, and every time she continued to maintain her innocence and refused to confess.
That's a strong woman. I'm sorry, but like, character alone, she's by far the best one out of this story, that from what I can tell.
She did admit to harmless practices of folklore, such as the quote-unquote reading of salt. So, when a cow was ill, she would give it salt that she had moved in her hand until it faced the sun. She would read a verse, which she proceeded to recite in court. Quote, Jesus our Lord traveled mountains and far. He cured shots and magical shots, shots of water, and all that is shot between sky and earth. God's worlds and amen, end quote. And fun fact, shots is another term for sickness. So she was essentially saying, I am healing you with this salt that was blessed by God. And
that doesn't sound very demonic to want your food source to be healthy again. And to do something like doing quote unquote like folk magic in the name of God. Yeah, like let her go, dude. 4 years? That's crazy.
On April 16th, 1672, Svea hovrätt, the Swedish Court of Appeal, found Märet guilty of committing acts of sorcery, citing all of the court testimony against her, as well as a devil's mark upon the little finger of her left hand.
Oh man, I'd be so dead. I have so many freckles.
Oh yeah, They would take one look at my
Oh,
face. Me.
yeah, you'd definitely be one of the
Yeah.
first to go.
I got freckles all up and down my arms, all over my face. They'd be like, "Witch," and they would just like throw gasoline on me and light me
Yeah.
up. Like
They'd find the biggest one and be like, "That's the one. That's the freckle."
be like, "Get her." Tried alongside 34 other people, Märet and 4 of the accused, 3 women and 1 man, were condemned to death. Of those who were to be put to death, only Märet and the man, Paul Märet, that's where the last name is coming in, refused to confess their guilt.
Because there was none.
The other 3 women, Small Märet, Kristin Jonsdotter, and Gertrud Olofsdotter, had confessed to their crimes. Kristin had her execution stayed due to the fact that she was pregnant at the time that she was condemned to death.
Probably why she confessed, because she knew she'd survive.
Yeah, I don't think she realized that they were just holding off on killing her until after she popped out that kid. Because they did go on to kill her.
Yeah, but she probably thought she was safe, which is why she confessed.
The court declared Märet, quote, "Her mere denial cannot help her nor free her from the life sentence," end quote. And in 1674, the court decided that it was no longer necessary to obtain a confession of guilt in the case of witchcraft in order to execute somebody.
Great.
So in September of 1675, Märet was decapitated, as was the Swedish custom, before her remains were burnt to ashes. She was 30 to 31 at the time that she was falsely accused and murdered.
That's awful.
And that is Märet Jonsdotter, the first woman accused of witchcraft in the Swedish witch trials.
It's just so infuriatingly sad.
Yeah.
Especially with all like the mini wins. She was cleared, she didn't confess. Like just skirting past death time and time again. Only for them to be like, you know what? Nope. We're the government. Bye. It's a shame.
Well, hello there. I'm Regina King, the Evil Queen.
And I'm Lynn Roskamp, the Docent of Darkness, and we're the hosts of Disturbing Interests.
Do you get excited about mummies, decorate in skulls, obsess over the loss of the Library of Alexandria, even though it was lost in a different age?
Do you kill the conversation with your in-depth serial killer knowledge, facts about items made out of human skin, or have a strange longing to know the softer side of Mothman?
Have you spent an objectively disproportionate amount of time studying the life of H.H. Holmes?
Oh, I wouldn't know anybody like that. No, certainly not.
Well, I mean, we did call our podcast Disturbing Interest for a reason.
That's right, we've got them, and we are doing you the favor of keeping the questions like, at what temperature does it take to destroy a cadaver out of your browsing history?
Well, we hope.
Because with us, you might be disturbed.
But you're not alone. You can find us on any podcasting platform under Disturbing Interest, or check us out online at disturbinginterest.com.
And this week's podcast plug is Disturbing Interests. Do your conversations kill the party? Do you find yourself getting that look due to your extensive knowledge about turn-of-the-century asylums? Have you ever wondered if there is a market for human skin books? If so, then we are the podcast for you. We are pulling the dark things out from the shadows and throwing them into the spotlight to be talked about while we sprinkle in some comedy and cursing. We are not making fun of these topics. Rather, we are laughing in the face of the dark out of sheer bullheaded defiance. We make the bold move and look up the stuff that you don't want in your browser history for plausible deniability, if no other reason. Because with us, you might be disturbed, but you're not alone. They are part of the Darkcast network, and we will have a link to their show in the show notes.
Nice.
This week's listener question comes from Carrie Ann, and this is our last listener question that I have on the docket, so...
Send them in!
So yeah, this is our call for questions.
Yeah.
But Carrie Ann wants to know, what would be the chances that we could get Maddie to go caving?
Caving?
Yeah, like spelunking.
This question is just for me?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I think this was... I'm trying to remember when she asked this question.
I'm all like
I
flushed
think
now. Why?
I think this was around the time that she had shared a story about some sort of cave. No. I know what this was. She asked this question when we were talking about after the episode of the jail that was in the mine.
Oh. I don't know. It depends. I could be fairly adventurous with a couple of caves. I think, as long as they weren't too deep. I don't know. I don't really mind darkness or cold, and I love rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think odds are pretty high, as long as I don't go too far deep and down in something. Just because I don't like steep descents.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
Like, I think I would become naturally claustrophobic if it was in like very tight quarters as far as caves are concerned. But if this is like a bigger cave system where, like there are some caves where you can like
You're just kind
walk
of
from
wandering.
one end to the other, and it's just kind of
Yeah.
like a guided tour through the cave.
It's a fun little bear cave.
I could do
Yeah.
that.
That sounds nice.
But if it involves me like getting in an elevator and going down several floors to like explore a cave, or
I don't need to
no.
do that.
No.
No.
I'm good.
We're cool.
I know there are people that are like that's their jam. That's not my jam. I'm sorry.
That's cool. I mean, the catacombs, like, people love that too. You do you, Glen Coco.
I'm not gonna cave shame you, but
No. Not gonna yuck some other person's yum.
yeah. But
odds are pretty high, I would say. That's my answer. I would consider going into a cave.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, what's something good you'd like to share?
Oh man. Oh, had a really odd request for a recipe recently. So one of our friends was helping us with something with one of our cars, and as a thank you, I usually like bake something as like a thank you whenever they refuse money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I had made these like brown sugar cookies, browned butter brown sugar cookies for the last time, and I was gonna do it again, but out of nowhere, he was like, "I want brown butter bacon chocolate chip cookies," like with a confidence that it was a thing, and I had no idea that it was a thing. And I was like, "Okay, I guess." So I made them. They were delicious. And then I realized I could make it better. And I feel like they would be better in bar form. So I made maple brown butter bacon chocolate chip cookies with Heath toffee bits and crumpled up Ruffles potato chips. And as long as you have a statin prescribed to you, you can eat these with confidence. But if you don't, you're really gambling. There's a lot of aggressive, heart unfriendly items in there, but
yeah,
they're delicious. It's really good.
If you are on the fence on whether or not you have a heart condition, maybe don't eat these.
Hey, if you need to be diagnosed, take a bite.
Oh God.
I say as heart conditions run in our family.
Yep.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. I'm honest. Yeah, we're good. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a fun recipe, and I'm probably gonna end up making them again because we have like an all staff meeting soon, and It's like potluck style always, so.
Are you going to put like a warning label on them? Like,
oh, I'm definitely going to put well, I have to say that there's bacon in it because I really don't want to like upset somebody who is kosher or like can't eat pork or is a vegetarian and think that they're like just these really delicious looking blondies.
Yeah.
Because they're not.
That's fair.
Like the only difference is like, you remember those lard cookies that we were obsessed with?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. They're up there. So if anybody's interested in the recipe, I can like share it with you to share with people. Just know that I vamped on it and added more because why not? Baking's not fun unless you make it chaotic. So
she's just drunk on her own power.
I am. As soon as I discovered I could brown butter, I became a monster. The power I wield with my spatula is immense.
Oh, God.
Anyway, there's something about you.
Oh, so I took most of the girls in my Girl Scout troop to the Minnesota History Museum this past weekend to go see an exhibit called Girlhood, It's Complicated.
Ooh, sounds very zine-like.
Yeah, so it's an exhibit that originated in DC. I'm sure it hit many cities before it came to Minneapolis, or St. Paul, excuse me. But it was really interesting because it broke up different aspects of being a girl/woman.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a section about like sports and about like fashion, politics, women's bodies. And I was really impressed because they had a mini display about the Radium Girls.
That's so cool.
Which was very interesting. Mm-hmm. And they also had, in like one of their fashion displays, they had a variety of hat pins on display.
Oh, cool. Were they pretty wicked looking?
They were.
Pretty...
Yeah, they weren't like super long, but they were like a ruler's length. Like they were.
Oh my God.
At least on average 10 to 12 inches long.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I was expecting just like a tiny little like Wolverine pin.
No, these were
shing shing.
These were long.
Dang.
So I had all the girls come over at one point because where it was at, there was like this table with like different things you could color that had to do with different fashion things.
Oh no! The hat pins were right next to the innocent coloring. Like, here's a murder weapon in self-defense.
Kinda. So it was like in the glass display case.
Your attacker.
And so I called the girls over in like a couple of small groups and was like, I want to talk to you about hat pins. And I was like, what do you think of these things? And they're like, oh, they're pretty. And I said, I'm going to tell you a story about how important hat pins were. And I like explained how they would literally pin your hat to your hair. And I said, and they became very fashionable at a time when women were no longer working in the home and they were going into like the city to like work in offices or to work in factories. And a lot of times they had to sit on like trolleys and in carriages with men who were not used to seeing women outside of the home. And so the fun thing about hat pins is if a man was bothering you and you didn't like that, you could take your hat pin out of your hat and you could stab the guy with your hat pin. And I said, because one thing you don't realize about hat pins is they are extremely sharp on the bottom, like a little nail. And every single one of my girls said, that is badass. We should bring them back.
I mean, I probably would have said the same thing as a kid. I don't know about like a foot-long pin in my head, though. I'm gonna probably choose a different weapon now, if given the choice. But like,
I said, it's kind of a hard sell now because we don't wear hats like that anymore. That's not.
Right.
I said there's no
in the
real
UK
use.
you can't carry butter knives, so I don't think a hat pin would probably work well over
I said it's a different day and age, but back then that was a way that you could really get your point across if
safe.
you were not happy with how men were approaching you or talking to you in a public setting. So,
or even other women too.
Yeah.
Like, just self-defense.
Yeah.
In a time where it was probably easy to forget how unsafe you were coming from just being at home all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Surrounded in the safety of your family.
And that was the only display where I was like pulling out historical knowledge from the podcast. Like I didn't hit on the Radium girls at all.
Yeah, they're still kind of young to really grasp that concept, right?
Yeah, and that's a really sad story. So, but it was good. They seemed to have a good time, and I made sure that we went to that exhibit first when we went to the History Museum, because I was like, that's what we're there to see. And I don't want to start somewhere else, and then before we even get there, you guys are like, I'm bored. I don't want to be at the museum anymore. And then I'll be like, well, too damn bad, because that's what we came here for. So I set the standard. Strong. As we were parking in the parking lot, I was like, here is the deal. Leave all your stuff in the car. I'm not keeping track of anyone's things. Also, we are going to this exhibit first because this is why we are here. And if you guys decide after this that you want to go home, that's cool. If you decide you want to see more things in the museum, that's cool. But before we see anything else, we are going to this exhibit. So they were like, okay.
Nice.
So yeah. We wouldn't be here without support from listeners like you. If you're interested in supporting us financially, you can leave a one-time or monthly donation over on Buy Me a Coffee or our Venmo page. Links are in the show notes. And we make a point of reaching out to send you a thank you note and stickers to show our appreciation.
Want to show your support in a more concrete way? Pick up some Yield Crime merch over at our TeePublic shop. We shout out whenever there is a sale each month, and we work to make sure we're creating new designs and changing it up whenever possible. And hey, thanks for listening.
We love to hear from you, and there's a couple of ways you can reach out to us. You can email us at yeoldecrimepodcast@gmail.com, where you can send us story ideas, share any spooky stories you may have, fun gifts, or even just to say hello.
You can also reach out to us via snail mail. Remember mail? Our mailing address is Yield Crime Podcast, P.O. Box 341, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092. Fun fact, we like to send out thank you cards with fun stickers you can't get at our shop, so it's worth the cost of a stamp.
If you love the show, the best way to support us is to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Good Pods, CastBox, Podcast Addict, and or Audible. Links to all of these are in our show notes, or if you're already listening on one of these platforms, you know what to do.
Oh, and while you're at it, shoot us a question you'd like to hear us answer on the pod. We'll give you a special shout out and address your burning questions all at the same time. The weirder, the better. Submit them via link in our show notes or shoot them to us in our DMs.
Want to be social with us? You can see pics from this week's episode, bonus content, and funny memes on X at Ye Olde Crime Pod, or on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube at Ye Olde Crime Podcast.
Speaking of YouTube, we have a special playlist just for our Can You Crack the Cramp Word segments with our guest podcasters to see who can correctly guess the meaning of some obscure Victorian slang terms. If that's your thing, check it out.
And on that note, as always, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Madison.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
as old as crime.
This episode is brought to you by Universal Pictures. From Universal Pictures and Blumhouse come a storm of terror from the director of The Shallows, The Woman in the Yard. Don't let her in. Where does she come from? What does she want? When will she leave? Today's the day. The Woman in the Yard. Only in theaters March 28th.